A small, rainy island off the coast of Europe ends up ruling nearly a quarter of the world. Not through sheer size, not through endless resources, but through a system carefully built to extract wealth, move it home, and leave lasting consequences behind. This is not a story of exploration. It's not a story of bringing civilization. It's the story of how Britain colonized and profited. The British Empire didn't begin with armies marching across continents. It began with trade. In the 1600s, Britain wasn't the world's dominant power. It was competing with Spain, Portugal, and the Dutch. So instead of conquering land immediately, Britain created companies, most famously the East India Company. Think of it like this. Imagine Amazon. But it has its own army, its own laws, and permission to overthrow governments. That's what the East India Company was. It started by trading spices, textiles, and tea. But when trade stopped being profitable enough, Britain didn't walk away. It took over. The shift from trade to colonization followed a pattern. 1. Set up trading posts. 2. Interfere in local politics. 3. Back one side in conflicts. 4. Replace local rulers. 5. Take control of land and taxes. This happened again and again in India, Ireland, Africa, and the Caribbean. Britain didn't always need large armies. It used divide and rule, exploiting existing rivalries. Once control was secured, the goal became simple: make the colony profitable. Not livable, not equal, profitable. Here's the core of British colonialism. Colonies were turned into machines designed to do 3 things. 1. Produce raw materials cheaply. 2. Buy British manufactured goods. 3. Send profits back to Britain. Take India. For centuries, India had a thriving textile industry. Under British rule, Indian textiles were taxed heavily, while British textiles flooded the market. The result? Indian weavers lost their livelihoods. British factories boomed. This wasn't accidental. It was policy. Cotton, sugar, tea, rubber, gold. Each colony was reshaped to serve the British economy, often at the expense of local food supplies and industries. Colonies weren't underdeveloped. They were deliberately underdeveloped. You cannot talk about British profit without talking about slavery. Britain played a central role in the transatlantic slave trade, transporting millions of Africans to plantations in the Caribbean and the Americas. These plantations generated enormous wealth, sugar especially. When slavery was abolished in 1833, Britain didn't compensate the enslaved. It compensated slave owners. That compensation was so large that British taxpayers only finished paying it off in 2015. After abolition, exploitation didn't end. It simply changed forms. Indentured labor, forced labor, and brutal working conditions replaced chains with contracts, often just as coercive. This is one of the most common defenses of empire. Yes, Britain exploited colonies, but they built railways. Here's the reality. Railways, ports, and roads were built to extract resources, not to improve local lives. They connected mines to ports, plantations to ships, not villages to schools or hospitals. Infrastructure existed, but it served the empire, not the people. It's like building conveyor belts out of someone's house and calling it a gift. Britain didn't just extract wealth, it reshaped societies. Borders were drawn with rulers on maps, ignoring ethnic, religious, and cultural realities. Many modern conflicts can be traced back to these lines. Languages were suppressed, local governance was dismantled. Education systems trained people to serve the empire, not lead independent nations. Control wasn't just economic, it was cultural and psychological. Colonization was never peaceful. There were constant rebellions across India, Africa, Ireland, and the Caribbean. Britain responded with mass arrests, executions, collective punishment, policies that worsened famines. Famines weren't just natural disasters. In many cases, food continued to be exported while people starved. Resistance existed everywhere, but it was often erased from imperial storytelling. After World War II, Britain's empire collapsed rapidly. Colonies gained independence, but not reparations, not returned wealth, not stolen artifacts. Museums stayed full. Banks stayed rich. Economic imbalances remained. Empire ended politically, but its profits didn't disappear. They became part of Britain's institutions, infrastructure, and global influence. This history isn't about guilt. It's about understanding why global inequality exists, why borders are unstable, why wealth is unevenly distributed. The British Empire is gone, but the world it shaped is still here. That is the entire history of how Britain colonized and profited.